Be back on the record. So, I have copies of that meeting for everyone, and I fortunately, just looked in the, file. We've got a file, both a G drive file and the electronic file. And in the hard copy file, there are resolutions for AWWU. There were not, these are not in our electronic folders, so I admit I had overlooked those. Those are for, one for ML&P and one for, so just take this top two.
Oh, you've already sorted them for us?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we didn't do a good job.
Okay, I have 3 and 4.
Okay, 3 and 4. And I have, okay, there's 3.
Wait, I think who's missing here? Okay, 3 and 4.
Has the municipal light and power, has theirs changed now? Did it go back from, is it still an authority now?
I believe that they are both reverted to being part of the municipality.
So they're back to being advisory rather than regulatory. So this probably doesn't apply to them now, does it?
Well,
I didn't.
I'm gonna check to see what the charter says here.
It seemed like this was when they were, or does that change? I mean, did that change when they did that?
Well, they're not elected officials, and that's what this concerns. I can go pull the ordinance that moved them from an authority back to.
Because at the time AWWU was a advisory, or what they are now, then there wasn't this type of compensation. This compensation came into play when they became authorities. And it was directed that we would, so that's why I'm wondering what the current status is, 'cause
Well, do we know, is there still a board of directors? Or you saying maybe there's no, if
Yeah.
there's no authority, there's no board, I guess.
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
saying.
there's not a board of directors anymore for either of these, right?
But doesn't this apply only to elected officers?
No, there's something in it, there was a change that was made in the, it's either in the ordinance that created the authorities that said that this commission would set their, the salaries of those, when they created those authorities. Or was something that was made in, I don't think it's on here.
Yeah, it's not in the charter, and
I-
you don't, there is no code provision regarding the Salaries and Emoluments Commission. There was at one time, but it's been repealed, so it's just blank. But,
I think it was in the thing that created these two boards, that it
Okay.
was in there, because it came to us then after they were created to set their salaries, or their compensation. And since they're no longer authorities, they probably are not getting compensation. So maybe we don't have to review this anymore.
So should we strike at least, does that sound correct to strike review AWWU board off of the agenda?
you know, I think that what you probably wanna do, however you decide to proceed, you should probably have me pull that ordinance that ended their role as an authority, and we should just take a look at that. Maybe it ended their role as a separate authority, but it didn't change their salary provisions, so we should just take a look at it, whatever it is, and I can either go find it now, or I can do it for your
Public
next
hearing.
meeting.
Okay.
Well, could
Sounds
we
good.
do a telephone conference to bring us
You know,
up to date?
I could find it and email it to you. and then you'd have it, and you could,
decide if we need to have a second meeting, a meeting just to say we don't
Mhm.
need to do this, to review this one.
Let me ask this, if, let's just say it turns out that we do need to, and we have a second meeting, cause if we're gonna take action on anything, we have to have a second meeting, so it'd be public comment. Can we do it all in one meeting? Can we review, have the public meeting, and then take action, or do you need to notice the proposed action?
did you know, it doesn't say that.
But I know that we do need to give notice if we have to have a public hearing.
Yes,
Yeah,
Right.
I
and
would
we-
agree.
I think it might be better to, well, how long would it take? It might be better to,
You know, it should probably take me less than 10 minutes to pull it.
I think it'd be better, then we can be
I
really
agree.
sure that everything we need to do at the next meeting is properly noticed,
Okay.
so.
So
let's
do
go
you
in-
wanna keep discussing the assembly, the school board, the mayor, and then by the time you get that done, I'll probably be back? Do you wanna do that?
Okay.
Okay, I brought calculators in case you needed them.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave you on the record and go try and find those, that ordinance.
If there's anything I can do to help.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on then to new business, and we'll start as the agenda shows, so we'll review compensation of assembly. This is most recently in resolution 2008-2 amended, which if I am reading this correctly, and I guess maybe we have to rely on Karen or Barbara. The resolution covers compensation and changes to compensation through the year which began July 1st, 2012, for both the chair and for the other members.
Mhm.
And it's silent on what would happen anytime after that, so I'm assuming that it stays at that indefinitely unless we take action. Is that
That's-
a fair assumption?
Or is it that it increases 4%?
I'm assuming that it's silent, that it does not increase, that it stays where it's at if we don't take any action to.
Yeah.
And for that matter, even if we took action today, it wouldn't go into effect until after the next municipal election and only for the newly elected ones.
Right.
So, and personally, right now, think they're okay. I had in my computer a chart that had all this stuff with the medical and all the parts that were all parts of this, that set this up.
Well, this only addresses though the base salary, is that correct?
One and two, I believe. That's how I would read it.
Because we have no control over, the cost of their participation in the various.
Actually, it does. Any member of the assembly or school board at their own expense may participate
Right.
and receive other benefits. Okay, yeah, that's right.
But we probably also have a say on what's covered in section 7, if I'm reading this right, so
Yes.
you get an allowance, and I would assume we can set that.
I'm reading it too.
It's really low for the allowance.
Well, it's bi-weekly.
But it's still something that most
That's
people
$500.
don't.
That's $500 a month.
Yeah.
That's, and this is not a, I mean, it is a full-time position, but it's not a full-time position, and it's not if they were doing it just,
Actually, I was quite surprised that they did get this allowance for their medical.
yeah, They didn't used to. You know, we need to know if they're carrying, if that 4%, I mean, it's specific on the years, so I don't know if that goes forward.
And it says commencing, so commencing for just that year, or?
Well, we can make it clear by adopting a resolution.
And you know that the sentence in here, it's expected that some assembly and school members, school board members will choose to use their medical allowance for something other than purchasing medical coverage, which gives me the impression that they didn't anticipate this as being full entitlement for medical coverage.
Right. It gave them, some of them could use it towards,
The MSA,
or their, like, if they wanted to have an assistant or something, they could put it towards that,
oh, they could use it for something else.
for something other than.
Be interesting to see the minutes on that, to
Mhm.
see what was there.
So you said you
Well-
have the minutes for the old meetings?
I have to look and see, but you know, I don't recall, I wonder how far back that goes, I don't recall.
Actually, if it's
See.
possible, I would really like to have some of the old
I
minutes.
have some research that was done before I came on, but they spent a lot of time they had not changed the compensation for the school board for years and years and years, and, there was a lot of research done by a group, but it was like for 2 years before that, and so we brought it up somewhat to.
Well, back to the,
And I may have thrown it out finally.
You can't keep it all.
Yeah.
back to section 1 and section 2, is on the assembly.
Mhm.
You know, Pat, I think you expressed an opinion, Marianne, do you have an opinion on what would be appropriate for 2013 or
I think
beyond?
it should be left alone as it is now. Cause it's not clear what it, well, I guess we decide whether it would be 4%, 3%, 5%,
Or it can,
continuing on.
or it can just,
And with the financial conservatism that everyone's having to face right now on budgetary items, I think we would be out of line to propose an increase.
Okay.
and at this point, the way this is written, it would stay at the current rate. I mean, it's, the
Mhm.
way I read it, it doesn't increase 4% per year.
Yeah, although, since there was some confusion, I mean, I think it might be helpful if we actually adopt a resolution that makes it clear that that's how we read it, just so that
It
It is
stays
clear.
at the current.
if that's the way, if we wanna say that what's
It
in here for
stays.
2012 stays there, I think we should say so.
Until such time as this commission
Yeah.
deems otherwise.
Yeah. So that would be, so it's at the rate of,
4%.
Well,
well, it's
not the rate of
no,
4%,
no,
it
no,
would
not
be
rate of
the dollar.
4%. The dollar amount of,
Okay, that's where,
as of
of the prior
2012,
year. Mhm.
which is,
28024, where, I mean, that's how I would interpret, if we said that
Yeah.
it stays, we
And it
would
would be
mean
the
that that
2824.
number stays,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
and the 31,713 for the chair. if that's what the
Mhm.
majority of the committee has already indicated.
So we need a
Guys,
motion?
well, I would say let's go through the others before we act on it, and then let's look at the
You're
school
the
board.
chair.
Okay. So how about the school board?
I would propose consistency.
I
I
agree.
would leaving it at the same.
I agree, I think given the current.
Okay, mayor.
Again, I would propose consistency of remaining at the same as it is for this fiscal year,
The same as it is for
for 2011.
2011.
So that,
I'm happy with that. I think that, given, again, we had a lot of, I remember having a lot of debate about whether 5%, 3%, 2%, 4%.
But it.
But right now, if it stays there, that's a good figure, given everything else.
In my mind, it isn't wise to
That's right.
ask everyone else to take, in some place, cuts, but in no place, significant increases, and then have the elected officials not follow the same
That's right.
philosophy.
just to refresh my memory, I know that in all of these cases, any change we propose, if we did propose one, only affects,
The
it only
next,
takes effect once there's a change in the office holder. So when is the earliest that a change could take place? I mean, I can't
The
remember how
earliest-
the terms go.
the earliest for the mayor, if there was a change, the next, let's see, we just elected mayor, so it'd be 3 years.
2015.
Yeah.
2015.
And so we still have, we can leave
Nice.
this as it is
There's
now,
no,
we
cause
still
it
have.
doesn't make a difference, if you meet next year,
Yeah.
or this year, it doesn't make any
Yeah,
difference
so
anyway.
it's not gonna make any difference in the,
But still, we have to
Still should make it
assume.
clear.
Well, and also, what would happen if you replaced a member? That's a newly,
right, they can make another, if we have,
That's true, it could happen anytime on
Right.
on that basis.
but the actual increase wouldn't happen until after an election. The same thing happens with the assembly, and if we make any changes, they don't go into effect anyway until either the latest and earliest an assembly one would be next April or May.
so a newly appointed doesn't benefit from it.
Oh, I think it.
Let's see.
I thought it did. That's
Yeah, I think it does, I think it's just a new person regardless of
Mhm.
what
Let's see.
what process was used, let's see.
Newly elected or newly re-elected,
So what happens if somebody's appointed?
That's why.
That's true, it's just silent on that, isn't it?
Mhm.
I think it's assumed that they would go with the salary that was in place for that particular seat at that particular time until they were elected.
For that seat,
Mm-hmm.
but
Because-
what if, okay, seat, not
Like-
person, okay.
Yeah, not person, it's,
Answered my own question.
it's right.
Well, that's great, cause I was just gonna ask to recess until Barbara got back, so Barbara's back.
Okay, so that one is the original, I didn't duplex it, but it's 31 pages, so I didn't make copies for Karen and I.
That's okay.
Let me, while we're looking at this, let me, ask, or cover what we talked about. The kind of the tentative direction of the
Right,
committee
okay.
is to leave the existing salaries unchanged, compared to how they are in 2012. we're reading this or interpreting this, that the resolutions as they read, since they're silent on what happens in 2013, or in the case of the mayor, on what happens in 2012, that what was in effect the last year that the resolution did say something is gonna carry forward at that rate. Is that a fair
That is
assumption?
correct, that is what
Okay.
has happened and what I believe employee relations interprets what's happened.
So there wasn't like a 4% increase this year, he is at 129,000.
You know, as far as the mayor goes, I have to tell you, I don't know what his salary is, I do know
Oh.
what the assembly members.
I think I could push
Yeah.
Rosemary's column.
Yeah.
So, okay.
We
Yeah.
know we
I
can
know.
get it, I just don't
Yeah,
have
no,
immediate
no, that's all
access
right.
to it. I do have access to the assembly department payroll, and I work with, employee relations to make sure that that's set. And we did, send this information up to them shortly after I started in July, so that they got their raise in July of 2012. And so it's my understanding that is just going to continue. Now, I think the one issue is the new members of the assembly come in at, did you figure what rate they come in?
At the 2012.
Right, they come in at the 2012 rate,
Mhm.
okay, right?
Yes.
And then we had a question, it's probably, I guess it's more hypothetical at this point, but if we decided to change, for example, the assembly compensation, and there was an incumbent, so it doesn't affect an incumbent, but then the incumbent leaves for whatever reason, and there's an appointed person instead of an elected person, does the new salary apply when a person is appointed, or does it only apply when a person's elected? Since the resolution,
Silent.
since this is kinda silent.
Since that recently happened, I think that we've treated the newly appointed member as if that person has all the rights and privileges of an elected member.
Of a newly elected member, okay.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay,
We wouldn't know how else to treat that person under the codes. There's, you know, once that person is appointed by the assembly, that person has all the rights and privileges of any member. Their term is just potentially shorter. Now, the school board just appointed someone, and you know, that person will be appointed for almost an entire year. So for us, there's just no way to treat them differently. That's just a practical matter.
Well, and it's logical,
okay.
which is wonderful.
Okay, so now we're almost caught up with the
Okay.
things that came up. So the
Okay.
last thing, I think it's the last thing, is that if, in fact, we do decide that we wanna leave all of these unchanged, we've considered assembly, school board, and mayor,
Mhm.
and since these resolutions are silent, would it be better for us to adopt resolution to say more expressly that that's what's happening? Or if we take no action, is it just fine to just take no action and just let them carry forward?
I actually think that's up to you, but I don't think it makes any difference. The only requirement that I see that's in the code is that you meet. And, so we've got your meeting, we'll actually take this minutes this time and make sure that they're documented. So I don't think that you need to pass a resolution that says
Okay.
we're not changing the salaries. But if you wanted to, you certainly could.
No, I think it would be good enough if we put in the minutes that that was what our
Okay.
expectation is, that taking no action would mean, you know.
Of course, I'm always in favor of documenting.
Yeah. So, but.
But you're right, it
But if
will
the-
be in the minutes,
Yeah.
and we know that we'll have the minutes, so, like, we don't have the minutes for last year.
Right.
That always makes me nervous.
I was surprised.
Actually, and I have one more, and we didn't discuss this, but it's just occurred to me. Since the language which refers to the commission says, you know, the commission shall be composed, and it lists these people, and we don't have all those positions filled, are we actually able to take action?
Well, that is a question that technically Karen will be able to answer for you. But I think my experience with boards and commissions is that, you know, whoever is appointed is the board or commission. If you have, an absence, if someone's appointed and not here, then you don't have a quorum, but you're it.
Yeah, that's how the other boards and commissions work. There are
And-
other boards
yeah.
and commissions that are missing
And-
people
And we actually have a majority of people that could be here.
You do, which is amazing and great.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and also it says the commission shall be composed of at least.
Mhm.
Right, but there is a cap 5, so.
Yeah.
Well, I would feel better if they were filled. I mean, I think just as for public process reasons, I guess if we do take action today, I would rather that we meet at least next year, not let it go the maximum that you can.
Yeah.
And have representation from all the parties there.
Okay.
You know, I think Karen and I can certainly try to make that happen. Obviously, this was a new one for me since I just started on July 1st, and
And following with what Steve said, I'd like to meet sooner than May, the day before the last day that we can meet, like maybe midwinter or something, just so we have, in case we have to have public hearings or anything.
Oh, it says, you know, it says once a year, not more frequently than once a year can we review them, I mean, the way it
Right.
reads, so actually,
Well, I
yeah,
guess
like
that would-
January, February, March, sometime early next year, I'd probably rather that we meet again with a fully filled out commission, at least with those parties represented that
I
are
think-
called for.
I think that could work for Karen, cause she does a lot of appointments or works with mayor to do the appointments in the fall. And that would work good for us. I would strongly request January, cause we start getting pretty busy in
Mhm.
February
Okay.
with the election, and I would be less able to concentrate. So we would be happy to do something in January. If you'd like to pick a date before you adjourn right now, we would be even willing to do that.
I would suggest it be the first part of January.
Okay. Yeah, maybe, I mean, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but something around the 10th then, is what you're thinking?
Would that be, that would be, people would be back from, those people who choose to leave the state in December should be back by then, right?
See, I'm always hoping that someday I can be one of the people that leaves in January.
Not
Oh,
me.
but so that's why it's not too late, yeah, okay.
Okay, well, the 10th is on a Friday, but that
Okay,
doesn't
that's
mean
not-
anything.
Well, Friday's not good.
No, it's not good. But, yes, early January, you prefer early January? or-
You know, what's so the 10th, 11th, 12th,
See,
Yeah,
then
so
with
the
the
12th through Sunday,
13th through
13th?
the 17th is a week.
so
How
the,
about, the 8th? That's a full week.
When does school go back?
yeah, I'd go for the 14th, the week of the 14th might be a little
Okay.
bit better, so, and
Okay.
if you would do another Wednesday, that would work good for us. We're usually pretty busy on Monday and
That's
Tuesday.
January 15th.
Getting
then.
January 15th,
Mhm.
there we are, right at the middle of the,
Yeah, and maybe we could just make sure that people can make it.
yeah,
I mean, you know,
just,
you
we'll
gotta send us an
tentatively set
email
that.
in mid-December
Mhm.
and make sure, and if not, if we have to, we'll
Then we,
adjust it.
then we can move it around, but
Yeah.
at least you have a
Mhm.
date set.
That's
so.
good.
Okay.
When I'm recruiting people, I can tell them they need to make that meeting. It's
This is
just
my
one meeting.
son's birthday, what will we do? Well,
Well,
our meetings
generally
are
it's at
never.
these 2 meetings, if we change anything, you
And
gotta. do it
our
second.
meetings are never very long anyway, so we can still make dinner and we never celebrate in the middle of the week.
And I imagine somebody's up for renewal later this year. Everyone wants to be reappointed, or the person.
Actually, mine's 14.
I have no
14,
idea when
15.
mine is.
I have it
Nor
upstairs.
do I.
Good, yeah, if you can send me an email, let me know when I'm,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah, I'll
'Cause I
send
don't-
email.
So,
Yeah.
so one of the issues that if you do meet in January, and you make a decision in January to adjust salaries then in January, then when would that go into effect?
Fiscal year or,
We probably have the latitude to do it whenever, don't we? We could make it go into effect in March or in September
No,
or
it
July
it
first.
couldn't go in, it couldn't go
Go
into effect in March.
until
It has
the
to-
beginning of the next fiscal year, so.
The
Right.
fiscal
So-
year after the election.
So if you make a decision now, it cannot go into effect until January 1st of 2014. But if you don't meet until January of 2014, it cannot go into effect until January of 2015, if that's my correct reading of
This,
the
yeah,
charter.
that's true. It's-
Because your fiscal year is January to December?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Although these were July, these were tied to the election, not the fiscal year. The mayor's one was, July 1, and the assembly, cause they're tied to the election.
Right, and that's okay.
And the same thing with the assembly and the school board.
So you can pass it now to go into effect in July of 2014.
Right.
But if you do it in January of 14, it would have to,
No, it could still go into effect in July of 14, but it has to be after the election.
well, it says compensation commencing on July 1, and they started that.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I see, I mean, I see what Barbara's saying. I
oh,
mean,
okay.
um,
A decision of the commission not affecting the compensation of elected officials takes effect at the beginning of the fiscal year.
But for election officials,
A
it's,
decision of the commission to adjust the compensation shall not affect seated officials, but shall affect those elected after the election. So you could make a decision in,
January, February, or
January.
March.
and it wouldn't go into effect,
Till July.
okay,
But, and for the mayor, it wouldn't go into effect until whatever, 3 years
mhm.
or 2 years or whatever. And at that point, it seemed like when we actually got down to making a decision to do an increase, we did have a public
yeah, oh,
meeting.
yeah.
I mean, well, all our
Yeah.
meetings are public anyway, but they
Right.
were noticed, and we had a public, could have comments from the public on it, so.
Did you have written and oral comments permitted?
Whatever, but nobody showed up, so, or I guess.
That makes it easy.
I wish a bunch of people showed up, but they didn't say anything. But we
Where
had
was that meeting at, Pat?
Downstairs.
In the assembly conference
Mhm,
room,
mhm.
okay?
Isn't that right? Yeah, that was a Salary Emoluments Commission meeting. Yeah.
I don't remember that. Maybe I wasn't there.
I don't know, Patrick Flynn was on it at the
Yeah,
time.
I don't, maybe it was before my time.
It could be.
Was it an evening meeting or?
It was like, well, for a lot of times we would meet at 5:30
Okay,
and have a 5:30 or yeah.
okay.
And then we'd be out of here by 6 o'clock, or we'd, we try not to keep you late. But there was, a lot of the people were working that were on the commission too,
And,
so.
but I think that's perfect, and if you want the public to have input, it really does need to be in the evening.
Yeah.
So I think
And so
5:30
we
is
made it
fine.
5:30, 5:45.
Mhm.
You needed to give it time for people to get there and park and whatever. I don't know if that's why our meetings were at that time or not, but they seem like they were always right after work.
So now back to this.
Okay.
So what's the short version? What
You
does
know,
this tell?
I didn't look at it too hard, but I think Pat is correct as far as ML&P is concerned.
ML&P, it says, Title 31 and Title 32 are repealed in its entirety. Title 31 was no, Title 31 is water and wastewater, and, ML&P was Title 32. And in that, it did say the compensation.
So
So that was repealed, so
Right,
that.
so I searched so that it reenacted them, and you're
Yes.
right, ML&P appears to be advisory.
Right, and so is water and wastewater now.
Is it? I didn't quite figure that it was advisory. I can see it says they have a board. It's called, so what I did was I just did a search for compensation to see if that was reenacted. And the search for compensation just went to the old provisions that were attached. And I searched until it said there are no more. So it looks to me like there are no provisions for compensation in.
Correct, yeah, I used to be on when it was, way back, when it was when it was just what it is now.
Okay.
And we didn't get any compensation.
But I didn't read all the way through it, so, and the ML&P one is a little bit clearer, cause it says it's an advisory. But it doesn't say advisory under the AWWU.
There was established a water and wastewater utility commission consisting of 7 members, at least 5 shall be. Okay. And it doesn't,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they draft, what the rules of drafting are, but it looks like on page 7, 8, 9, 10, those are all repealed. It's in boldface, with
Mhm,
brackets at the
mhm.
start and the end, so it's gone, so. Okay.
yeah, so they shouldn't be receiving any compensation at the current time, or anything other than whatever boards and commissions. Some boards and commissions get something and some don't.
Do
Okay.
any of the boards and commissions get paid now, Karen?
I think maybe your board of,
Elections.
elections board does.
But they
Yeah,
get
but that's a
$12
separate-
an hour.
But that's a separate.
Yeah,
thing.
and
it's
So,
special.
planning and zoning, oh,
No, that was,
that went away too. I know that they all went, years ago, they all went, we had, at one point, they gave us a choice between having food at our meeting or getting $20 to pay for the babysitter, but we did away with the whole thing.
Mhm.
It makes things simpler.
Yeah, we were there as
at least you had
volunteers.
a choice.
That was, and then when we reduced it even more, okay, so it doesn't look like that there is compensation at the current time for water and wastewater or ML&P, therefore I think that we no longer need to review the AWWU board or the ML&P board.
Right, if I remember right, the municipal clerk is the staff to the committee, so if the clerk tells us that that's how it is, good enough for me. So,
You know,
yeah,
what I'm
so-
gonna do, since I am very proud and happy to be your staff, but, the Department of Law drafted that, and I'm just gonna run the question up the pole, and I'm just gonna make sure that they agree that the Salaries and Emoluments Commission has no duty to set salary for them. And then, we'll see, I'm sure that we'll get an answer, and I'll just forward it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
And then could we incorporate it into our records?
Did you know, I'm not sure that I can do that, cause that isn't part of your public meeting, but
But
it
it could be
appears to
attached
me.
in our next
Yes,
meeting.
it
Yes,
could be.
yes, your next meeting,
And then we could,
yeah.
I just hate to repeat
To that way it would be clarified.
things.
I'm with Marianne on that, have a good, clear, document things, it'll work, so. So, okay, is there anything else on 6A?
Do we need to make a motion?
Do we know, well, at least my understanding is that we are going to we aren't taking action, but we are going to have the minutes reflect that the intent of not taking action, if we do end up not taking action, is for the most recently prescribed numbers that are in these 2 resolutions to carry forward.
Very
Right?
well
Okay.
said.
So, I don't think you can make a motion to take no action, but I guess we could do whatever. How about 6B? is there any reason why we need a public meeting, given that there's no action?
No. That would be.
We haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Right, so is there any committee member who wants to have a public meeting?
No.
Okay.
And we've scheduled, we have scheduled our next meeting, which is open to the public, so that'll be noticed. Whenever, even if it gets changed, it'll get noticed.
Okay,
We're in good shape.
okay. Public comments?
I'll get emails out to all of you, and I'll tell you who you are and when your expiration date is, and then that'll help you
That's
recruit
good.
more people too.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't think I'll be able to do it today, but I'll get it
That's,
this week.
that's fine. Member comments?
Oh, I'm just glad we had a meeting. I thought, oh, wow, are we out of compliance here? We are almost.
Yeah, Marianne, comments?
I have no comments, just find it very interesting.
And my only comment, I think I've already made, is that I'd really feel better if we have the committee fleshed out before our next meeting, so I think it's a better process, so. That's it. Any other business either the staff thinks we should be taking up, or the members want to?
I do have a question. Can we receive a list of who we are?
I'll send that out.
Okay, with an email so that we can,
Exactly.
I can send an email if I need to, or, I thought I have, and I know I have a Excel chart of whatever we decided here, you know, from way back and
If
in my
you
computer.
have the notice that we didn't have any meeting
Not for
minutes
me,
last
not-
time.
No.
Could we have the minutes if you've got
I
them?
have some from before.
A year
I don't know
before?
which ones, but I have some.
Well, I can send these ones to you if you want, the
Oh,
December.
this is it?
Yes, that's, I mean, the meeting, the committee met December 14th, and then it met May 9th of 2011, and that's the last
That's
time
it.
it's met.
I don't know
Yeah.
minutes. It says so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and then, although, just keep in mind, because of the Public Meetings Act, you can email procedural matters, but you can't email anything that would indicate that you're deliberating or
Right,
making a
right.
decision on any matters that could come before you.
Do we need to fill out a new, conflict form?
You know what, we have had that discussion, and Karen and I think that you should. That is our position.
Yeah, I
How-
remember getting a request not too long ago for one, but it was only.
You must have been re-upped last fall then.
Okay,
Yeah.
'cause I
Oh.
remember doing it not too long ago.
Great,
great.
And
then
maybe
you're
I
all
did
set.
too, cause I know I was last fall.
Hmm.
Yeah, there
Good,
was.
and
a-
you
we
were
have a
just re-upped, so
conflict.
you are up.
How could we have a conflict?
Oh, we just have to read it and say that
And
we.
just say we don't?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very simple.
Because you never know, things change. Yeah, I think we're current, cause I was, I had to come in and fill out some things. Guess you could check and see.
I
Eh,
certainly will.
you know, if I
I'll
know.
check our
I have
records.
not. So,
I'll email it to you, or send you a link, I can send you a link with the other one.
Okay, so I'm ready for a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right.